Thanks again to Laura and Dr. Joanna Katzman for that interview. Starting next month, Project ECHO launches another new series, this one on global nuclear and environmental threats critical to climate change and human health. Now I want to welcome back our guests, Justine Fox-Young and Sean Griswold, for another look at the ongoing 30-day legislative session in Santa Fe. Representative Derek Lente of Sandia Pueblo, he introduced House Bill 134 this session. It would create a tribal education trust fund and a task force to oversee how money is distributed to the state's 23 tribes, pueblos, and nations. We anticipate that's going to be up for a floor vote later today as we tape this on Thursday morning. Sean, how is this bill being received by elected officials, the governor, and the Navajo Nation Council?
Yes, it came into this session, broad support. It's passed every committee up to this point unanimously. It's a direct response to the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit mandating education reform. It looks to build and provide investments for tribal education departments specifically, which a lot of people don't know that many tribes here run their own tribal education departments here. So the model is designed to put in $50 million into a trust. Then you take 5% of that annually and then distribute that to the tribes. Where it stalled last year, this is the fourth year that's been presented, where it stalled last year was concerns from the Navajo Nation about equity. There was no direction as to how much money each tribe would receive. The concern from the Navajo Nation comes from the fact that they do have a higher population of Native students in New Mexico, more than any other tribe in the state. So of course, their idea is we deserve more funding from this model. Now that has somewhat been addressed in this current version of this bill. There's a current amendment that would design a task force that has considered equitable representation from the Navajo Nation, Pueblos, and Apache tribes that would then design the funding model that would provide equal amount of distribution to all these tribal schools. When the session started, again, had unanimous support from everybody. In its second committee, Navajo Nation President Boo Nygren had a representative give a presentation to the committee and testify that he has withdrawn his support. So the Navajo Nation government currently no longer supports the measure as is. This is the president's office and this is the council's office. Now this doesn't include other members of the Navajo Nation who have continued to support the measure. It does have support from Navajo people, but as of this moment, the bill is sitting in limbo with the Navajo Nation government not in support.
Okay. And is it still over those equity concerns?
It's over the equity concerns as to how much money the Navajo students would receive.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in a letter to the All Pueblo Council of Governors, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham asked whether the members appointed prioritized a $50 million tribal capital package or the $50 million tribal education trust fund that you just mentioned, or both of those things. That council responded, frustrated that they were asked to choose between education and infrastructure. What have you gleaned from your reporting? Is it possible for both to be fully funded and approved, or is the governor showing her hand here that she would only support one of those two?
The House fund, the Tribal Education Trust Fund that Lente proposes is part of the House budget that is passed. So there's $50 million currently in the budget that is making its way through that would fund the trust fund. There's another $50 million for capital outlay projects on infrastructure needs for tribal schools. Those are both there in the budget. So whether or not the governor is going to support that with the line item veto, that's going to ultimately be her decision. But in the response that in her request to the All Pueblo Council of Governors, asking them please pick or choose one of these, they basically told her no. Why are we going to determine between our kids and the infrastructure needs that we also need? Why can't we have both? So the governor doesn't have support from tribes on that measure, and if she were to do that, it would just ultimately create more distress between the governments that exist in New Mexico.
Now, as legislators scramble in this last week to debate hundreds of bills, the governor's ambitious agenda that she put forward, Justine, we have to ask, will this workload, 700 pieces of legislation put forward, close to it, is that sustainable for a 30-day session?
I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it benefits anybody. I mean, traditionally, the governor is the agenda setter in terms of determining what is germane. And that's how the law works. But that requires that the governor has some discipline. The governor's office has some discipline, and it's really hard to do because there are so many areas that need attention and so many legislators that want to introduce bills on behalf of their constituents. So I don't think it helps her because the agenda is so far-flung that it's hard to focus on anything, and I think it does become unmanageable. It is the legislative process. A lot of measures are doomed to be tabled or die early on in that kind of setting. And so it works itself out, but it becomes pretty chaotic and disorganized if you're trying to address too much in a budget session.
Okay. Now, it's not just the increase in the number of bills being introduced during short sessions, it's also their complexity and the trend of course, resurrects the ongoing conversation about paying lawmakers, giving them staffers, something that we've referred to and others have referred to as modernization quite a bit. Now, Gwyneth Doland asked Senator Pete Campos about that idea this week. We'll play it for you now and get your reaction.
It seems like the legislation has gotten more complicated too, especially this session. We've just been talking about some green energy bills, things like that. There are proposals up here to pay lawmakers, to pay staff, and to lengthen the sessions. What do you think is necessary? What do you need in order to do the job of today?
So very quickly, I represent all the parts of 7 counties. 36 incorporated, unincorporated communities, all are parts of 26 school districts, 14,500 square miles. But that's the citizen legislature, and that's the way I was brought up in this process. So as I deal with it, my focus is to continue that one-on-one relationship with people in the district. So when it comes to a paid legislature, right now, that's something that I don't support. But I bring that up because today's legislators really want to ensure that they can deliver the services that are necessary, which have become more enormous. And the reason they become that, because our legislation, our lives are so much more complex. Anytime you go into modernization, anytime you see larger pools of people that are dealing with issues, we have so many things from homeless all the way to addiction. Those kind of things necessarily do have to be covered. And so as we go forward, the whole issue is how can we continue to create the balance so that rural and frontier New Mexico continues to receive services just as well as the urban areas in our state.
Would a paid staff member assigned to your district help you do that?
I believe so. However, I have gotten accustomed to doing the traveling from one community to another, from Las Vegas to Raton or to Amalia, all the way down to Vaughan, Santa Rosa. And so in it, this is what I'm accustomed to. This is my service to people, and this is what I love. So right now I would say I continue to go ahead and do that on my own, and I enjoy it.
Now, Justine, what's your reaction to Senator Campos's position on modernization? And is there something to what he said about being able to drive around, speak with his constituents, and the risk of making things a little bit more impersonal in a paid setting? Or is that a flawed premise?
Well, I think there's always been a certain charm and efficacy to a citizen legislature and the idea behind that. And it's something New Mexico's hung on to for a long time. You know, you want to have membership, you want to have legislators who actually run a payroll, who actually work in the community, who, are involved and engaged. I don't know if the time has come for a change. It's a hard evolution to make. I think there are a number of concerns, including Senator Campos's, about how disconnected people may become. There's a concern that, legislators are effectively going to have paid campaign staff year-round, working on the public dime, and what that will look like. In a big geographically large state like this, where you have everybody congregated in Santa Fe, I think there is a risk that you lose that connection. And so I think there's a lot to what he's saying. And Senator Campos has witnessed this transition. At the end of the day, whether or not the public is going to buy modernization, which is, kind of a euphemism for paying the legislature, I doubt.
Now, modernization, it would include, or the idea includes several things, and there could be individual steps taken at different times, like lengthening to 60-day sessions each year, as opposed to having a 30-day, then a 60-day, paying staff as opposed to paying lawmakers first. There have been talks about gradual progression of these things. How do you see this, Sean?
There would be incredible benefits to understand what's happening in the roundhouse. I mean, covering it for 30 days is like drinking out of a fire hose. And so for us, as journalists who will spend, up to 14 hours a day in the building, you still don't know what's going on all the time. And you're still sort of in this controlled method of just grabbing onto the chaos. So for a general person who doesn't track or isn't a lobbyist or a lawmaker or has no interest, just a New Mexico taxpayer, I think it would make things a little bit more understandable as we see a slower process. Because if it were to evolve into a longer session, into more competent staff, perhaps even providing a better professional class of either policy individuals who could work on these serious topics as they do during the interim, but having them being able like a full-time position throughout the year, I think would benefit ultimately. But again, you have to sell this to voters. You have to sell this to the New Mexico public, and that is the problem with this idea of modernization. Is I don't necessarily see a voter who has known this lawmaker. Most lawmakers are retired, prominent individuals in their community, some of the more wealthiest or legacy individuals in that space. And now you're asking their neighbor who doesn't make as much money as them, who may never make as much money as them, you're asking them to now pay me more money to go do this job. Well, it could evolve and create places for individuals to who don't have the funds or the retirement or the wealth to be able to go volunteer as a lawmaker every year. I think that the issue is still, you're not pitching this to New Mexicans in a way that is ultimately going to come down to wallets in the pockets of, why am I giving them more money when I already feel as if they may not be representative of me already?
We'll wait and see on that one. Now, back to education briefly. The original House budget includes a proposal to withhold funding from schools that did not meet the new 180-day school year requirement set by the governor, or if that school operated on a 4-day week. A Republican-backed amendment would counter that proposal, allowing 4-day school weeks for smaller school districts that want them. 17 Democrats support the amendment, and it was passed by the House last week. Why are Republicans pushing for 4-day school weeks to remain in smaller districts, and why is it receiving bipartisan support?
This is about local control with school districts, and this is about, you can either track it out a calendar year by days, which is 180 days, which is what the governor wants, or by hours. And that's the current model that we have set up, and that's the status quo that these local districts want to maintain. For them, a 4-day work week works in a number of ways. The arguments we hear for it for rural districts, and this is where you bring in rural Democrats and support for it, is some of our communities are big and wide, and it takes 3 hours round trip to get a kid to go to school. We have community events that happen, on a Friday that allows us to, that engage students in stuff they're learning in school, but we do it in our own way, that either whether it's farming or maybe even some traditional ceremonial elements you see with some local tribal schools. But that's where it is that you're connecting now rural districts in a way that says we want to direct how we educate our students in a way that is meeting our community needs and hopefully giving them more success. Because that's also something we've seen proven with education reform. The more you localize your schooling, the more successful your kids are going to be. And that's why people are coming together for it.
Yeah, this is not a partisan issue. This is an issue that highlights how ineffective the public education department is, I think, at administering services statewide and at meeting the needs of these small rural districts. And that's why you see Democrats coming on. It is an urban-rural issue. It is maybe a native issue in some respects, as you allude to, but it is not a partisan issue. And the governor is trying, Pett is trying to maintain control of this and maintain a very bureaucratic regulatory environment and sort of impose this on these smaller districts, and it's really not workable.
Is there a way that the current system could exist currently while giving a little bit more local control, just kind of loosening the grip on some of these requirements? Is that possible?
I'm certain that it is, yeah, and it's a give and take. But the administration, I think, should listen closely to these very good arguments. We can't pay for custodians 5 days a week. We can't pay bus drivers 5 days a week. Kids are sitting on buses for 4 extra hours under this scheme, and really give credence to those arguments and try to work something out that works as well in JAL as it works in Albuquerque. But that's why local control is really preferred here, and that's why it's not partisan.
And to that local-rural divide, local urban and rural issue, local school districts can point to their students achieving at a greater rate, higher graduation rates, some higher reading levels, better at math, than some of the urban schools can. So they're like, our models are working for us. They're working for our students. Why are you making a shift into this thing that might work for Albuquerque or Farmington schools, but is not going to apply for us? And that's another argument that I think you're also seeing with a lot of rural school districts.
Okay. Now, Sean, sticking with you, we wanted to highlight Source New Mexico's coverage, specifically how you've covered exactly what's up in the legislature. You published an article recently called Germain in the Membrane. Nice work. That tracks the status of every bill introduced at the Roundhouse, and as mentioned in the highlight, and as mentioned by Justine, Germain applying to whether or not the governor has called for this topic to come up. You're clearly taking a different approach to this. What's behind that?
Yeah, so the major element behind this, as I mentioned earlier, when we're covering this, it's trying to drink out of a fire hydrant. and there's so many distractions, you get pitched on so many different proposals. We really wanted to design our coverage around what is working, what's moving, what has support, and try to estimate what that is. Now, when you spend the entire interim session, which is an entire year, you see a lot of these legislative proposals develop over the course of a year. You see the broad support that happens during the interim. So that was number one. We're like, okay, what was presented in the interim, what's working, and since it's the budget session, now we can understand budget requests from various agencies that were presented last year, what's going to come back and how's it going to match with the governors, the LFCs, and then the legislature's budget. It's ultimately our goal as a news organization is to provide as much accurate and clear news on policy wonky topics that are just really hard to understand. Even for us, being in that building 14 hours a day, we still come out of it trying to figure out the confusion. So for a reader who doesn't have that time or just is looking at a news story, our goal is to provide them, here's where it is, here's what's happening, and this is what's likely moving. So we're not wasting our time and resources on stories and bills that might garner a headline, might be big news, might even get some national attention, but ultimately, once they're introduced, they just fall flat and fart. So that was the goal, prioritize our resources so we're covering what matters, and also just trying to keep sanity in the chaos. I think that having fun with the puns there came directly from our reporter Danielle Prokop, Patrick Lohman, who when we were like, please go understand what germane means, fell themselves into this deep rabbit hole of, well, nobody really quite understands what it means other than that this can be a priority piece of legislation. I really got to give credit to those two reporters, Austin Fisher, another great reporter, Megan Terros, individuals who are following these like major complex topics, some of them for over a year, and trying to relate them in a way that makes sense. So that's ultimately our goal, is we want our reporting and the policy decisions happening there to make sense to everybody. And that's our effort with that. And within that germane article, we have a searchable database of all legislation that's germane, telling you where it's at, where it's going. The legislature doesn't have a searchable list, so we built that out to provide an easier access for readers to what's happening in the Roundhouse.
Yeah, that has been incredibly helpful. Have you gotten any feedback? Has it been working? Have you been engaging different populations that normally don't have deep involvement in the legislative session?
This year in particular was very surprising to see the reach that Source New Mexico has. This is our third legislature that we've covered, so we're fairly new again, started in 2021. But the very first day there's a media breakfast and you see all the media scrum there. And even if they're not working for us, there's several people that, like, we were the majority in the room. Then you get outside and you start talking to either to lawmakers or to people who are to the general public visiting. They read our publication, they read Source New Mexico, they know what we're about. So that to me tells me that we're doing something right if people are reading us and recognizing our work.
Well, you're keeping long-form journalism alive at a time when people go to Yahoo News for the 3-second clip, and it's incredible work that you're doing.
And it's local.
Yeah. And still digestible with that list. So I commend you on all
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. And thank you both for being here. Former State Representative Justine Fox Young and Source New Mexico editor Sean Griswold. Thank you.
Thank you.